Shalom, shalom, shalom. This is your brother, Kadar of GMS Gulf Coast. I'd like to start by giving all praise, honor, and glory to the Most High Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rekak Radash. Double honors are given unto the apostle, elders of Great Millstone, men who have labored and suffered in this truth for over 30 plus years, making their lives and their bodies a living sacrifice. I also like to send a shalom to the hopeful elect, the 1/3 of the nation of Israel, the speckled birds scattered throughout the four winds of planet Earth, which consist of men, women, and children. I also like to send a shalom to the various GMS camps, elders, and heads. And last but not least, I'd like to send a shalom to any of you Akim not named GMS out on the highways and hedges, bringing forth this 100% doctrine, walking in one body, one spirit in Yahweh Shai. To you all, shalom. I am not a slave. I am not a slave. We're not in slavery anymore. You're free to do as you want, to go as you please. That's terminology that you'll hear from a lot of Jakes, so-called blacks, Latinos, Native and Seminole Americans. They're free to go to the grocery store and to the corner store and to any store to that effect. But there is a deal that we reserve the right not to serve you. This goes back to those black codes. Anyway, history and etymology for emancipate. Latin emancipatus, past participle of emancipature, emancipare, it's like emancipare from E plus emancipare, to transfer ownership of. To transfer ownership. So when you look up the etymology of the word emancipate, which Lincoln is so famously known for signing a proclamation, emancipation. The word emancipation simply means to transfer ownership. Simple as that. Look, word search, which a lot of the brothers in the know, well, we all are those brothers, that does this work sincerely, starting with our apostle elders on down, the brothers such as myself. We know these things, Salakia. Let's go real quick. As I just said, brothers in the know, they know these things. I think it's real quick. So you not be ignorant of any little trivial thing, because the scriptures say not to be ignorant of things. This is Ecclesiastes chapter 5 and verse 15, and it reads, "Be not ignorant of anything in a great matter or a small." And I would consider this to be a great matter, because the majority of Israel said that they're not slaves. And they like to quote, the Emancipation Proclamation signed by President Lincoln in the mid-1860, I believe it was in 1863, 1865, somewhere along there. Yes. It just simply means to trade, what it says, to transfer ownership, that's all. And what was the transfer of that ownership, from private, which you had the plantations and whatnot, from private ownership to corporate ownership. Yes. From private ownership to corporate ownership. Salakia. And it's just another one of the wiles of the devil. Like it. Like I was saying, this is just another one of the slick tricks of the so-called white man, Like I said, the Proclamation of Emancipation, So it just transferred over the ownership from the private plantation owners into the corporate world, because I believe in 1865, was it 1867? Well, I think it was in 1865, no, 1867, somewhere up in there. They had a, matter of fact, let me go there. Let me see if I can find it real quick. Let me see if I can find it.
According to Ballotpedia, the Civil Rights Act of 1866 declared all persons born in the United States to be citizens, without distinction of race or color, or previous condition of slavery or involuntary servitude. Although President Andrew Johnson vetoed the legislation, that veto was overturned by the 39th United States Congress in the...
See that? So this Civil Rights Act that they passed in the 1960s was predated 100 years prior in the 1860s, you see? There was all a plan from the elite bankers, you just if you just meditate on, let your mind just meditate. They was buying the ownership, they was making slaves, they was turning, you've never stopped being a slave. You've never stopped being a slave. Matter of fact, let's see, let's check this out real quick. It says the Civil Rights Act of 1866 declared all persons born in the United States to be citizens without distinction of race or color or previous condition. It's like a condition of slavery or involuntary servitude. Although President Andrew Johnson vetoed the legislation, the veto was overturned by the 39th Congress. And let's see. Anyway, let's Ballotpedia. Let's see real quick. See, that's just some slick. That's why the scripture said Ecclesiastes 5. It's a rock, Salakia. 5 and 15, Salakia. That you should not be ignorant of anything in a great or small matter, in a great matter or a small. You're supposed to know these things. It says the Civil Rights Act of 1866 declared all persons born. We just read that. Let's see. And then it became law. The Civil Rights Act of 1866 was the nation's first civil rights law. That is. Prior to that civil rights law of 1960, what it was, 66 or 67, I believe, somewhere up in there. When Lyndon B. Johnson signed it into law. These rednecks, I'm trying to keep it clean, these so-called white folks, these Edomites, their biblical nationality, they hatched the same plans over and over and over again. When you follow the track records and you do your own research and not let Fox News or CNN or MSNBC dictate what you parrots. And a parrot is an animal, a bird that sits and just repeat what its owner says. And in the retro sense, so-called blacks, 2/3 nation of Israel, you're owned. Well, we all are for the most part, but our owner is Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua, the 1/3 that has awakened, the hopefully elect. Yes, but 2/3 of our people are still owned by the heathens that are around about through adhesive laws and things such as this right here. Emancipation. When 2/3 believe that they're free because they can go to this Baptist church and decline to go to this St. Paul Methodist church or St. Paul Catholic church. It's like it. They can choose to be a religious, what they call a Jehovah's Witness. Because, in the Constitution, it's all about religious freedoms and all. Man, all of that's bull. Simply because Jake is the parrot and the heathens round about Jake are the owners. It says under President Andrew Johnson, Democrat Reconstruction policy, the former Confederate states were required to maintain abolition, swear loyalty to the United States, and pay their war debts in order to rejoin the Union. Under Johnson's Reconstruction policy, Southern states adopted and enacted a series of laws designated to restrict free blacks' activity and ensure their availability as a labor force. This is where you get them jails from. Yeah. It says, although these laws recognize certain liberties, they largely denied black citizens equal protection under the law. For instance, these laws restricted property, contract, and labor rights for black citizens. Republican lawmakers in the United States Congress who believed the federal government had a role in shaping a multiracial society in the post-war South opposed Johnson's plan for Reconstruction and sought a different approach. See, this is all slick stuff. Because now this is where you get private prisons from. Like you go, like for instance, those northern states, New York and New Jersey, Massachusetts, Pennsylvania. Those states are just as much, just as racist, or not even racist, more racist than the Southerners. Because towns, certain towns up there where there was no employment, these folks built prisons and employed the local citizens to give the local citizens jobs and whatnot, and made laws in the books. Whereas if Jake was just standing around loitering or soliciting, these are laws that are 150 years old that are still on the books today. You could be thrown right back in you could be thrown in jail, and by way of the 13th Amendment, you've been cast back into slavery. So it was just this is a corporate way. It is a corporate way of enslaving you. And look at the dealing with the jails today. When you look at the statistics, over 88% of the people in jail, 88 to 90% of the people in jail are Israelites. Starting with you so-called blacks and Latinos, black and so-called brown people. So this wasn't nothing but a ploy. It wasn't nothing but a ploy. Now I want to get two scriptures real quick. Let me get Psalms. I think it's Psalms. Let me see. This is Psalms 94 and 20, and it reads, shall the throne of iniquity have fellowship with thee, which frameth mischief by a law? They frame mischief into laws, being mischievous. The filthy rich, the people who funded the wars, had a plan. Or they're going to enslave everyone, which pursuant to Revelations 13, verses 15, 16, 17, and 18. And they've been putting their plans in action for centuries now. For centuries. And been writing up things like the Constitution and whatnot, granting you certain liberties and freedoms and whatnot. All those is frameth mischief by law. That's just being mischievous, deceptive. Let's look up that word deceptive real quick. Google me the.
Here's the definition of deceptive: giving an appearance or impression different from the true one. Misleading.
Look at that. Deceptive. Giving an appearance or impression different from the true one. Misleading. These laws are misleading. That's why Jake believed that Jake is a part of the society. Jake believed that he is an American. You are not. That's why you hear the men of the Lord out on the highways and hedges, you know what I'm saying, bringing forth this truth, speaking loudly, crying loud, you know. Crying aloud. Spare not, trying to get you to wake up and come back into this truth, you know. Matter of fact, I'm going to grab that real quick. Let me get that. And just real quick, this is Isaiah 58:1, and it reads, "Cry aloud, spare not, lift up thy voice like a trumpet, and shew my people their transgressions, and the house of Jacob their sin." It's a sin not to be listening to the Most High, Yahweh Hashem Yahushua. It is. Given all the hell that you've been through and whatnot, and then you still want to, go on your own. You know, you want to believe this. You want to believe it so bad that it aches. This is Ephesians 6 and verse 11. It reads, "Put on the whole armor of Yahweh Bashem Yahushua, that ye may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil." Now let's look up that word wiles real quick. Define wiles real quick. How you put this armor on? You come back to this. You believe in.
Wile.
It says what it is. The voice. Or cunning statements. No. Or cunning device. Or cunning stratagems employed in manipulating or persuading someone to do what one wants. I chopped that up real bad because my reading ain't what it need to be, what it should be rather. But nevertheless, you can see it. If you're looking at this video, you can see it's cunning and employed in manipulating or persuading someone to do what one wants. And they're persuading Jake to do what they want him to do. Get a job, go to school, be educated, so that you can be put to work in their factories. And, you know, you can be put to lure, enticed. Another way of saying, well, something away. Let's see. Yeah, so, you know, it says Ephesians 6 and 11, "Put the whole armor of Yahweh Bashem Yahushua, that ye may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil." The enticement, you know, because in this society, you know, hey, there's all kind of enticements. It's all kind of gifts. Matter of fact, let me go real quick. Let's see, is it Michael? No, let me see. That ain't it. I know that ain't it. Because I ain't gonna know which one. I think it's 6. And it says, let me see. Because, see, evil has gifts as well. And that's a part of the wiles of the society, you know. That you know, because this society going to offer you gifts. Things like, you know, degrees and whatnot, you know. You know, give you status. Let me see if I can find it real quick. I had Let's see. Let me see. I think that's it. Let me see. Let me see if I can find it. Okay. Yeah, here it is right here. This is Michael 6:10, and it reads, "Are there yet the treasures of wickedness in the house of the wicked, and the scant measure that is abominable?" Huh? Are there yet the treasures of wickedness in the house of wickedness? So these things that they offer you in these status in that society by way of college and joining sorority groups. That way you can make your way into to local, state, and even on a federal sense, politicians and whatnot. You could be set up in different spots according to your matter of fact, let's look at that word scant real quick. According to the treasures that they will allow you to enjoy in this society.
Scant.
It says barely sufficient or adequate. Scant, barely sufficient or adequate. Now let's go back. It says, "Are there yet the treasures of wickedness in the house of the wicked, and the scant measures that is abominable?" That is abominable. The barely sufficient. And this is how they have you living. This is how they have you living. You barely able to make it, You barely able to make it in society. Especially if you just an everyday Jake, working a 9 to 5, had to get up every day and day in and day out, which all us do for the most part, all us Jakes do. It really don't matter how well off you are. Because guess what? This society makes sure that you pay tribute to them by taxes. You got a boatload of money, you got a boatload of taxes you got to pay year in and year out. You got a boatload of property, that's a boatload of taxes you got to pay year in and year out. With these scant measures, which are abominable because you barely get by with this. You can't sit and rest on your millions and think that just, okay, I'm done working. I done made me $4, $5, $10 million. And you own 20, 30 acres of land. You got to pay taxes on that each year. Homes, pay taxes on that. The money in your account, you got to pay taxes on that. All of these are scant measures. And the treasures that so there are treasures in the house of the wicked. And a lot of people will believe that they're well off when you just simply been tricked. Just simply been tricked. I'm gonna go real. This will be the last one. It was just through the spirit. The spirit got on me, and I thought about that emancipation, and so I think it's Baruch. Let's see. Real quick, let's go see if we can find this. Because unbeknownst to the majority of so-called blacks, especially you so-called blacks, you are still in slavery. And that Emancipation Proclamation has been your downfall. This is Baruch chapter 3, and I'm going to start at verse 7, and it reads, "And for this cause thou hast put thy fear in our hearts, to the intent that we should call upon thy name and praise thee in our captivity." Huh? And what's that fear? Just like them folks went to that top supermarket over there in Buffalo, New York. Didn't have the faintest idea that they finna get gunned down by a knuckle-dragging cave maggot. Didn't have the slightest. You walk in fear every day in this society, in your captivity. Though I walk through the shadow of death, the valley of death, Slakia for brutalizing that. This place is the valley of death for you so-called blacks, Latinos, Native, and Seminole Americans. You've been transferred from one ownership to another and been given these scant measures, these abominable measures to barely get by, have you scratching and clawing and fighting with one another, depending on the measures that they give you. You know, if you in the sorority in college and whatnot, you sure enough messed up. But anyway, and it reads Baruch 3 and 7. This is gonna be it, and I'm gonna close out. It says, and for this cause thou hast put thy fear in our hearts, to the intent that we should call upon thy name and praise thee in our captivity. For we have called to mind all the iniquities of our forefathers that sinned before thee. Behold, we are, and this is the point, verse 8, and it says, behold, we are yet this day in our captivity. To the day we are still in captivity. An employee just transferred means slave. That's all it is. Because you bid for what? You bid for a certain amount of work. I mean, a certain amount of wage for your work. These international bankers have got real slick with what they do. That's why the scriptures say, be not ignorant of any matter, whether great or small. You're just sufficient with the scant measures, and that's sufficient enough for our folks. So we don't have to read, because I'm able to get some Nikes, an ounce of weed, and some nails and some hair, just frivolous things. And I can go out in the club and to casino, whatever the case may be. That gift has destroyed the minds of our people to the point they don't even want to hear truth. They don't want to hear facts. Leave me alone. Let me stay drunk and confused and dead in spirit. Just leave me be. Anyway, verse 8, and behold, behold, we are yet this day in our captivity, where thou hast scattered us for a reproach and a curse, and to be subject to payments according to all the iniquities of our forefathers which depart from the Lord Yahweh by Hashem Yahushai, our power. Hear, Israel, the commandments of life, give ear to understanding, wisdom. And with that, I'm going to close it out. Give all praise. I give all praise to the Most High Yahweh by Hashem Yahushai. Double honors to the apostle, elders, great millstone. And it was just truly just speaking in the spirit. With that, shalom.